great, and welcome to this science lesson about the topic where do we come from. Today is lesson 7. So let's start the lesson with the driving question. As usual, remember to copy and underline the driving question. Underneath the driving question, a list of the keywords that we are going to use today during this lesson. So let's have a quick recap about variation. We already studied that variation means the differences between living organisms. We also studied that we have two types of variation: inherited variation related with the characteristic inherited from your parents, and environmental variation related with person's surroundings. So variation thus will explain why people are similar but not identical to their parents. Okay, now before we move on with the lesson, there's a little task for you. Think Persha. We used to do this in class 2. The question is, what is the meaning in science of the word variation? So pause the video, think about your answer, share it with someone close to you now, so one of your parents or siblings. Then I will show you my answer to check your thought. Okay, let's go through the math scheme. So what is the meaning in science of word variation? Variation means the differences between a living organism. It can be inherited or environmental. So when we first studied variation, we said that it is used to separate living things into groups. We also said that there is variation between different groups. If you look at the picture, you can see that in vertebrate groups, we have 5 subgroups that show a wide range of variation between groups. In fact, we have mammals, fish, birds, reptiles, and amphibians. Each group, in fact, contain many different species. We can observe in these pictures, in fact, different species of mammals and some different species of reptiles. I've just mentioned this a new keyword, species, but what does it mean? A species is a group of organisms that can reproduce with one another to produce offspring that can also reproduce. In fact, in this picture, you can see these 2 different species of elephant. They cannot reproduce with each other because they belong to different species. Instead, these dogs belong to the same species, so can reproduce with one each other to produce offspring that can also reproduce. Now again, a little task for you. So the question is, what is a species? So please pause the video, go through the 4 options and pick one. Take your time to do that. We will check when we're ready. Okay, so the right answer is C. A group of living organisms who are able to produce offspring, and then the offspring can also reproduce. Now, going back to the driving question, to what extent do penguins look the same? We know that penguins belong to the same classification groups. They are birds, but there is more than one species of penguins. So now I will show you a list of penguins belongs to different species, and we are going to observe the differences between all these penguins. Okay, so we have emperor penguin. Is the largest of the penguins, has a yellow open ear patches at both sides of the neck. Its length is 120 centimeters, its weight 36 kilograms, quite big. Then we have Adelie penguin. All of its feathers are either black or white, has white rings around the eyes. Its length is 70 centimeters, its weight 4 kilograms, so it is slightly smaller than the first one. Then we have Chinstrap penguin, has a white head and a small black band running over its chin, hence the name. Its length is 74 centimeters and its weight is 4 kilograms. Rockhopper penguin, smallest of the crested penguins, has red eyes and dropping crest. The yellow strips that runs from the stars of the crest almost join at the bill. Bill is another way to say beak. And then length 53 centimeters, weight 2.5 kilograms. The macaroni penguin, plums are orange rather than yellow. In fact, if you compare with this one, those are more yellow. This one is orange. and extending backward rather than outwards. In fact, here you can see the crest going outwards. Here instead, you can see the crest going backwards. Its length is 71 centimeter, weight 4.5 kilograms. Yellow-eyed penguin, length 73 centimeter and weight 6 kilograms. And the last one is the little blue penguin, length 43 centimeter, weight 1 kilogram. It is very small. As you just observed, each species of penguins is different from the other. So now, based on what you have just observed, try to make a list of the features that will vary between different species of penguins. What you've just observed, or which are the features that we observe that show variation. So pause the video, take your time to do the task. Okay, well, the three main features that we observe that are average weight, average length, and pattern of feather colors. Okay, this will you explain the variation between species. In fact, different species of penguins have different average weight, length, and pattern of feather color. But what we will observe if we focus on one species only. Let's have a look at the species known as emperor penguin. Okay, so if you look at it, in this picture, we can observe a kind of variation between these penguins belonging to the same species. If you look at their height, in fact, you will see that within the same species you can observe some variation of penguins' height. For this reason, we talk about on average heights within a species. In fact, some emperor penguins will be taller, some will be shorter. This will explain to you that we can have variation within species. In the same graph instead, if you also put the average height for macaroon penguins, for example, you can observe that emperor penguins will be always taller than macaroon penguins, and this explains you variation. Here you can observe a resume of what which graph and just so on the difference in penguins in this case belongs to the same species and variation between species. Okay. Now another question now could be, will emperor penguins always look the same as they do now? To reply to this, we need to do a step backwards when the characteristics are inherited from parents within species. Although, as we said at the beginning of this lesson, there will always be a slight variation between individuals who inherited them. Then, if this characteristic will give an advance to that individuals, that characteristic will be more likely to be passed on to the next generation. So, over many generations, we can observe some change in appearance or behavior within that species. Okay, so again, another task for you, true or false. So for each one of the statements, you need to tell me if it is a true or false. So please pause the video, take your time to do the task. We'll check when you will read it. Okay, so let's go through the mark scheme. So the first one, there is within space false, because we said that you have variation within species and between species. In fact, the second one is true. The third one, C, is true as well. And last one is false, because I said disadvantageous features or characteristic is the same, are more likely to be passed on to the next generation. Of course, it's false, because it's the most advantageous feature that are more likely to be passed on to the next generation. Okay? Now, as a normal science lesson, we have the writing phase for the second half. So I prepared for you 4 different questions from the scribe to combine. Please go through them and reply to them. Actually, in the next slide, I prepared for the first 2 a starter sentence to help you with the task. So please pause the video, take your time. I would say no less than 10 minutes. and we will check it later when you will read it. Okay, so get ready with a green pen or different colored pen to mark your work or add extra detail. So for the first one, the word species means a group of organisms that can reproduce with each other and the offspring can then also reproduce. The word variation means the differences between a living organism. It can be inherited or environmental. We'll explain some examples of the variation between different species of penguins are the length, the weight, and the color of the feather. What makes them different species is the fact that they cannot reproduce with penguins from a different species. Penguins show variation within a species as well as between species because within a species some penguins will be taller or shorter than average and there will be slight variation in all of their features between individuals within the same species. In fact, we said that offspring will be always similar but not identical to parents. Then the last one. The future of a species may change over many generations. Penguins is the most advantageous feature and more likely to be passed on and inherited by the next generation. Okay? So the very last bit is to derivative. To remember, the first gap is for the squad explain, use and combine because I could. And you can help yourself with the statement there on the slide. To complete it, remember what you've achieved is what you've done on your own and not in green pen. Post video if you need time. And the very last thing that I need to tell you guys is please don't forget the 10-question quiz and show my homework related with this lesson. And thanks for today and well done and see you to the next one.